Hello and welcome to another episode of The Modern Nerd. I am Sir Slice,
I am us merchandise.
What was that? Okay, I'm GJC.
and we are, as always, massive nerds. Now, today we are going to be talking about the actual finale of House of the Dragon. Because if you tuned into our last review, I 100% thought that the last episode was the finale. So, this is the actual finale. We're going to go over, I guess,
The
what
actual
happened.
finale. We're like, why are you calling it the actual finale? Was
Yeah.
there a fake finale?
There was a better finale than this one, I'll tell you that. Honestly, right off the bat, it should have ended last week and I would have been happier. Um more poignant of
uh,
an ending. I think this one had an interesting, as you can see, spoilers, full spoilers in my little graphic that we have on the screen here. The only interesting thing that happened in this episode happened in the last 30 seconds, and it was this chase between the largest dragon you've ever seen and the smallest dragon you've ever seen, which is just indicative of its riders, who is like Aemond is a lot taller than anyone else and bigger than all the rest of the cousins. And then you have just Jacaerys? No. Yes. The
no,
littlest one. I don't remember his name.
Lucerys,
On the littlest dragon. And
aka
he
Luke.
gets chomped. He gets destroyed in a moment where no rider could control their dragon. Luke's dragon went and shot a fireball at Vagar, and Vagar was like, "Fuck you, dude!" and then came out of nowhere and just destroyed this guy. So I said last week I was concerned about how they're going to end it, because it's like, do they just kind of set up the war?
They set it
What
up.
they did apparently was, last week you got the Hightower episode, and this week you get the Targaryen episode, where you don't see each one. They split it up and told you each half of the story by themselves, which, in my opinion, was a bad call. It was slow. It was boring. Nothing happened for the first 45 minutes of this episode. There was a birth and it was failed. There was some squabbling between the Targaryens and the Valerians, and it was nothing. It was a very, for me, disappointing episode, especially for me, because I came off for me a high watching all four of those last ones back to back, and then I wait a week and get this bullshit. So, I'm just very let down by the show, which kind of goes to show what George was talking about last week, was like, watching, viewing experience is half of the experience. Binging them, I feel, is better than just week by week and disappointment after disappointment. So, you know, that's my 2 cents. Did
Mm.
not end well. Everyone acted fine throughout. The one constant throughout this entire show was the actors are great, and I would expect them to be, because this is going to be one of, like, the most watched things on the planet right now. So you're going to want some of the best chops, and everyone was good. Everyone was fine. I'm still trying to figure out what Rhaenys was doing by
Rhaenys.
not Rhaenys was doing by not murdering everybody
Well,
last week.
she
So,
said
she
Power play.
did, but
she said it wasn't her war to start.
yeah, but
She had her time to fight for the throne, and she's done doing that for herself. So she
She's
is technically right about
a
that.
lie.
It'd be different if she was the one to attack first, because then
it
like
would.
it would essentially commit her house to the battle regardless of how it turned out. And this way
True.
she's not the one making that commitment. She's waiting for her husband to return from battle and make that call. So, and also
call he
it's not
did
her
make.
right to attack first either, because if there is to be an attack, it has to come from Rhaenyra. That's the only way. She has to be the one to make that move. She's the only right, she can't speak for Rhaenyra. And what if she attacked? Think about it. And what if she had killed everyone on that dais? All right. Do you feel like? Do you feel like? What would have happened? Like, what would have happened? Like,
She should seize power. Fuck it.
right? Like, the
Ever-
only
ever
solution
weep
for
in the
that to
sun.
work is for Rhaenys to become queen. Like, you don't make that move to kill a king and the whole royal family unless you're planning to like take over, right? Like, Jamie, like, good example, stabbed a king in the back. What did he do, dude? Ned told him the first time he walked into that throne room, it was Jamie Lannister sitting on the Iron Throne waiting for it. When they finally took over King's Landing, you know, you don't kill a whole king in the royal family unless you plan on sitting on the throne. Like,
Sure.
so
Sure.
I don't know. She's actually my favorite character so far in the show. Why is that? I don't know. Yeah, I kind of like her. She way more than I like a lot of the other people.
Before she crashed in through the ceiling with her dragon.
Not as much, but now I do. At least something happened. That's why I'm rooting.
She's the only one that spoke the truth.
You know, she gives me some mad. You know, maybe it's because she's an older woman, but she gives me that Lady Olenna. She gives me that Lady Olenna vibe, though. You know, like
fucking George just said she's his favorite because of this like 30-second part in this show. Look how low the bar is right now. This is the age of TV that we are living in right now. We are living in an age of mediocrity where we have success from one thing and then we slap the same label on something else and they expect success and they get it because we're a bunch of chumps and we think we're going to get something good and we keep hoping and waiting and we don't. We're right back. This is okay. I was so triggered.
It was okay. Yeah, no, I definitely get it. No, I get what you're saying.
I'm not that triggered, but like people at work were like, "How good was that show?" I was triggered then. I was like, "What? Are we like? It's fine. Like, we wouldn't be having this conversation if that Game of Thrones label wasn't on there."
Oh yeah,
I think you're right because
that's like how I feel about Rogue One,
Lord of the Rings. Like the Lord of the Rings show.
Look at what happened with all the Disney remakes over the last few years. Look at all the Star Wars, the foremost example of that.
Sure.
Something achieves. I mean, more than moderate success. Like something achieves success, like high amounts of success, and then for decades after, we are hit with 3 more James Cameron Avatar sequels. Who asked for those?
Oh my god!
He did.
He did because he is. So
10 years ago, I would have liked them.
I mean, he's a narcissist.
They were okay. The visuals were cool, but if I want to watch Fern Gully, I'll watch Fern Gully.
Fuck, I love Fern Gully.
It's nothing, you know. I don't. How much unobtainium do you need to mine to make it successful?
Unoriginal name ever.
Giovanni Ribisi was cringing when he read that in his trailer. I gotta say this oh god.
I love Giovanni Ribisi.
I do too. But
he's from Boiler Room.
Yeah.
He's the guy from Boiler Room.
He's Phoebe's brother in Friends.
Oh my god, the guy from Boiler
Room. Tim's gonna bring up the creepy dance he does in fucking.
I know Dan likes Boiler Room.
In Ted or something.
Anyway. Fuck, I forgot about that.
I do like Boiler Room. It was because I worked a sales job for a while. But anyway, I don't know. I just am. It's like I want to like these things, but every time these remakes, these resequels, these sequels, or they're prequels, they all just feel not just like they're just like uninspired. And like you said, that's nothing toward the actors. I see them doing everything they can.
They're great actors,
but that's not enough. At least for me, and it's hard, and I also recognize it's hard to live up to minus the last 4 episodes of Game of Thrones, the original series. But if you're gonna slap that label on there, you gotta, like, there's no witty banter, there's no jokes, there's nobody we're really rooting for besides Rhaenyra, and I guess Rhaenys now maybe.
Yeah.
But even then, we're just like not sure what she's doing. She's not sure what she's doing. She was the only one that didn't kneel.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, that was an interesting choice.
I think I did like that little bit to it.
Me too.
But like,
again, it's like,
but Rhaenyra didn't like hate it though. You know, I don't think it was like a slight. It it was a very interesting moment when I saw that. I was like, okay, like I get it. Everyone's
Yeah,
playing the Game of Thrones, but
I don't know.
yeah,
It's hard to get into it when everything we've had before is so much better.
yeah,
I think
And I just
yeah.
I think the
I don't
way
know.
that
Go ahead.
this how can I explain it? I think the way that the reason why I thought she was always like Rhaenys was always an interesting character, and even before the dragon thing, actually, to be honest, that definitely made me like root for her more. Obviously,
A little bit.
but it's known that she has like one of the three larger dragons in the game, like in the show. I mean, so like she was always a formidable person, in general. Um, but I think there's a lot of subtlety to her character and like the way that just the dynamic she has also with Rhaenyra. Um, in many ways, I think she's positioning herself more as an equal partner, Rhaenyra, than
Yeah.
any other character. I mean, she needs Daemon because Daemon is a man, and in that world, unfortunately, things can't be done. A woman can't do things without she needs him at her side, just because they need heirs and also just to have that. But sometimes I hate to say it, he's not a good partner for her in many ways.
Rhaenyra?
Right? Yeah. Damon's
No.
not necessarily a good partner because sometimes he has his own agenda. Like
Sometimes.
he's on his own, and then he disappears for hours and doesn't support her, like when she needs him the most. Like he's not always the ideal partner in many ways for her. And yes, they might share some kind of bond connection and maybe true love, but there's many times that when she really needs him, he's lacking.
Feel
And
like they breezed over a big chunk of the relationship because like
yeah,
that time gap, that 10-year time gap when they grew up, like we missed
while
like
they were in
why their
Essos.
dynamic is the way it is now. It changed from when they were younger to now, and they just didn't tell us. So
Yeah,
I'm like, oh, they're not I don't get, like, it just doesn't make any sense anymore. And
yeah.
look, as a whole, like the show's fine. I'm not saying it's a bad show at all, but like it just, for me, the way this season ended, if I'm talking about just the way you end a season, you went out with a whimper and left a cliffhanger. Like there really, you know what I mean? Like there wasn't a lot that happened. Like
Yeah.
I wasn't intrigued by the conversations that were being had. Nothing seemed like, oh, this some revelation until, like I said, the very last scene of the show. Like everything was just a conversation that I knew was going to happen in a way that it happened, and it was not surprising. So it just, as a finale, you need to do more with the show. Basically, if they'd taken the events of the ninth episode and the events of the 10th episode and overlapped them. Sorry, I blocked myself from the mic, but overlapped it like they have every other episode, and told us both of those stories simultaneously, you'd have some intrigue because you'd see what's happening with the king being, Aegon being brought up, and then, oh my god, what's happening with the queen? Something's happening over there. Okay, and then all this and back and forth. Ooh, it's kind of intriguing. And instead, it's just like, and he's being unopposed and put up in the crown, and then, oh, she's gonna get her own crown, and okay, cool. Like it didn't do anything from a storytelling point of view because there was no dynamic moments to go against what you're trying to build up. You need to have, like, if you're going to build something up as this grand moment, you need some intrigue from the people who are being put down by that moment. And there wasn't one. It was just, you get that standoff versus when Otto Hightower comes up. I'm like, just burn them all. Like, fucking just, at this point, go Daenerys Targaryen on everybody and just burn them all. And I'd be like,
that would have
cool,
been good,
finally
actually.
something happened. Like, ooh.
Like he's probably the most valuable player on that side of the team, so to take him out would be pretty smart, actually.
It's pretty much Otto versus Rhaenys. Rainier. I don't know how to say her name.
Rhaenys, not Rhaenyra.
Rhaenys. No, I
Rhaenys.
think Rhaenys is the only person who's smart enough to play
Yeah.
this game.
She has a Lady
She's the only
Olenna
one
vibe.
yeah, she speaks the truth,
Yeah.
and she is smarter than everyone in the
Yeah.
room, but because she uses the fact that she's a woman to her advantage, because
Yeah.
nobody thinks of her as, because they're like, oh, women can't be rulers. So she's like, all right, fine, I'll just sit right here and just whisper into your ear and make things happen
Yeah.
the way I see fit. In a way, she's been pulling the strings. Because for the first like 4 or 5 seasons of Game of Thrones, it was pretty much, yes, you had the Lannisters and the Starks, but you also had Varys and Littlefinger, who were really,
it was like CIA versus KGB.
Yeah. And that's what made it really fascinating for me, is because they're like little people pulling strings with whispers and doing that stuff. And here, they don't really do that as much. You introduce this character in like the 7th or 8th episode when, you're trying to find Aegon to make him king. Or it was the 9th episode. But it's like, oh, she's the whispers and the blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, who is this person? What's happening now? In where? Like, it just didn't, there was no intrigue. So I think there's a lot that is kind of, there is some good. The acting is good, and I think there's moments that you're like, yeah, this could be an interesting plot. 10 years later, fuck.
Yeah. And this I'm going to tell you, I'm like, Dan is completely right. Like, the lack of having someone who you really care to root for, I didn't realize that was such a big problem about the show, like about shows in general, until I saw this show. Because like, I feel like even when we were watching like Game of Thrones from the first season, I'm already rooting for like a lot of people. And for some reason, I found myself even rooting for people who I didn't think I was going to root for in the beginning. I did not think I was going to root for Tyrion, but I kind of started rooting for him, pretty much 3 episodes in. I thought he was just going to be another rich, like, comedic relief. And then I was like, oh man, there's like way more to this character, right? And like, even Jaime at the end, I kind of was rooting for him within like, towards the end of the season too. I was like, this is an interesting character. Like, I want to like see more about this dynamic that he has, And some ways, within 3 seasons, I was rooting for Cersei, and I did not think I would be doing that at the beginning of the series.
I don't think I was ever rooting for Cersei.
I was. But,
I feel like
when?
Yeah.
I'm not going to get into it, but that there is like so many more people to root for in Game of Thrones within that first like few episodes already, and I don't know. Maybe it's because like the Starks had a whole entire family of kids that were like so lovable, kind of, like, and they mostly lovable, but they, like Arya was such a good character, and and like Bran quickly had his own story, and even like Jon and Robb had their own stories, and they all had like, they went their separate ways, I guess, maybe, but you got to see their own stories and how they developed. And like these new kids and these characters that we're introduced to, like, we barely saw him for like maybe like 5 minutes before he got bit. Like, I don't know. Like, how could you possibly expect us to be invested in anybody or anything when you don't even give us a chance to know who that kid is? Like, okay, he's the one that stabbed him in the eye. Okay, that much I get. But like, what about between that? What about between that part? Like, I don't. Why do I need to feel anything about?
Or it's a build-up episode.
Yeah,
it's a build-up season. It's a transition season.
It is. It really does feel like they're like, here's all these characters. Let's get through these people, and then next season.
I'm going to tell you though. I'm going to tell you
about who you want.
I am extremely worried, because if they're not able to create that kind of like that hero person that we want to root for right now, knowing what's going to happen in the not this like, but like, even knowing what's going to happen, regardless of what's going to happen, even if they change the story completely, it like, I have very, very like small amount of faith that they can somehow parlay this into other characters that we care about more, unless they change somehow the pacing of the show, I guess. But if it's the way it is now, if it is the way it is now, I have a hard time finding anybody potentially that I can root for in the future. Aside from like, I mean, I guess like I said, Rhaenys, because I think she's pretty cool. She's like the Varys of this episode of the season. I'm rooting for her. Like, I like her.
But man, if she didn't crash through that ceiling, we wouldn't even be talking about her right now.
Oh, that's true. That's true. But like, I mean, a lot of it also is like knowing what I know about the past for her also, maybe some extra stuff. She is an interesting character in general. Much like I'll say in general this season, there's only 2 characters that interest me, and you can guess who the other one is.
Rhaenyra?
No, Damon. Those are the only 2 people I really have any type of interest in.
Is I loved Damon in the beginning, but like he's become such a side character now.
Yeah, which is kind of weird too. I agree.
It's not like his impact isn't felt as much. I'm like, you've got this kind of unhinged kind of wild card that you can just kind of have do whatever you want, and that's a fun little plot device to play with, to be able to have in your back pocket. It's like, why did he do it? He's crazy. Fucking let him go do things.
20 years younger when all that.
That's true.
Yeah, but like you can still have him mentally be a little unhinged.
He's
right now.
Out. He's not like that person.
He's worn out.
Yeah,
lost too much. Lost too much.
It's not good. It's
not
a good change.
Like, if you talk about like what kind of power players they have on each side right now, despite the fact that like the Greens seem like they have the legitimacy, the thing is all they have is like location right now. They actually don't have much other than that aside from location.
No, they have the numbers on their side.
Yeah, well, they have the peon numbers, yes, but like they don't have the firepower, because like if you count as many dragons as there are, they have less dragons, and right now Rhaenyra has more mature dragons than they do. Well, their dragons are fucking huge.
It's not just that they have a bigger army; they have a way bigger army.
They have a way bigger army. You're right. You're absolutely right.
And they have the biggest dragon.
Right. That too.
So that's going to count for something. You know what I mean? They have a proper tank. You know what I mean? So
we'll see how this plays out. But
for nothing.
I think because of the fact that Rhaenys knows how important, like, aside from her fleet, but also her dragon will be, because her dragon is one of the bigger ones, the top 3. She plays the game more as an equal to Rhaenyra and wants to position herself that way, as opposed to, I'm just gonna... There's like that subtlety, that I can appreciate.
I just feel lacking. Like,
yes, I agree too.
I feel like there needs to be... It's just... something it doesn't feel like it's over. It feels like there should be another episode. Like, it just was not a finale to me. As a whole, I'm fine with the show. It's a political landscape, and
I think we're gonna have to wait more than a year for
just
a sequel.
Political drama, which is also annoying if we're talking about like the television era that we're living in now. Is post-COVID, everything is a lot more tenuous, so it's not guaranteed. It's like, oh, you're going to sign a deal for 3 seasons, but like you get a season, see how it goes, but by the time that season airs, like, and then you have to ramp up, so then it takes another year just to get ramped up again and start filming, and then another year before we get
hopefully
we're not getting the content as quick as we used to, and
hopefully they'll figure it out, and they'll try to streamline the schedule, and they'll get greenlit and not have to worry about that.
They were greenlit after the first episode, but they should have.
Well, that's because this one took so long to put together because of COVID, right? And now that they know that the show's quote unquote successful enough to go on for maybe 2 more seasons, maybe they will schedule it properly for the 3rd season as well.
If they did just 3 seasons, I think that would be great.
I think they can end it in 3 seasons if they have to.
I think they
at this
could.
pace.
At
this pace, yes.
Sure.
But also, I'm fearful because, like I said, I don't know. Like, knowing all the characters, and even not knowing all the characters, but knowing all the characters, I find it very difficult to find anybody I want to root for in the near future. Like, I'm sorry. Like, looking at all the people, like, I don't care about none of these kids. Like, I'm sorry. Like, do you care about none of these kids? I don't care about none of these kids.
I'm intrigued by Aemond a lot.
Yes,
yeah, because he's like, he's crazy, but also...
But also in a bad guy kind of way.
Yeah, like, sure.
Whereas, like, we need more protagonists.
But we all know that a bad guy can pull you along for quite a while. You can ride the tails of a really, really good villain for a decent amount of time. I mean, look at how high up the Dark Knight got. I know we keep harping on the Dark Knight, but like that got most of its praise because of Heath Ledger. So
Right.
Sure.
you get a good thing going, and it can keep you there until you find the right person. So we'll tune in 3 years when we have our first episode of
I'm
the
excited
second season.
though.
Like,
You know what I'm excited about?
Interested then.
I'm excited because like Damon pointed out that he's like, we have like more firepower than them. Like we have more dragons than them. And actually, there's a handful of untamed ones or unclaimed dragons out there as well.
Yeah,
and I'm
which
very
is an
curious as
interesting
to see how
scene,
that.
too.
Yeah, I want to see like what other like people who become other dragon riders, because obviously those dragons are like. Why would he mention it if they weren't going to be claimed?
I'm semi-interested in it, but like
I'm
again,
like, hopefully that's like they'll introduce characters that I care about. No, well, don't say that. I want that. I just find me another dragon rider that I can invest in, because I know. Oh, sad.
Anyway, look, I think we can all agree that this was not the best attempt at a Game of Thrones prequel. We were lacking in many categories.
Yeah.
It had me for a little while, but the finale really did just leave me with a sour taste in my mouth. That sounds familiar.
I think I liked it more. This is funny. I liked it more than all out of the three of us. I think I could say I liked it more than
maybe
Tim and
yeah.
Dan. Yeah.
Just
I really did enjoy the series. I would give it more of a plus than a negative, to be honest.
I would too, but it just, again, I'm talking.
Are you on a plus, a neutral, or a minus?
Who,
neutral,
me?
yeah, neutral is an option.
I'm in a plus.
You're in a plus, closer to the plus.
All right, what are we doing? How are we ranking this? We can't just say plus, minus, or neutral. If we're gonna do it like 10 stars, what were you put it, George?
Just do it. How about by grades? A, B, or C, and you could do pluses or minus.
B minus.
B minus.
Yeah, right there.
It had this. Look, there are a few episodes that were wins to me, definitely.
Right.
And I just haven't felt that winning feeling in a minute. I'm a reluctant C minus.
I knew you were gonna do C minus. I knew you were gonna.
I'm closer to like an A minus or a B plus. If not, like lowest is a B, but probably closer to a B plus, I would say. Yeah, I think this is almost an A minus. Like I think, like I can see how badly the show was being pulled in different directions, kind of, and maybe I kind of chalk it up to like production and COVID and all that other stuff. So maybe I'm slightly bit forgiving with that, but honestly, I don't. To be fair and judge it by this, I want to be fair and judge it by whatever standard it should be. So it is closer to a B plus, than like an actual A minus. I did enjoy the season. I can say I enjoyed the season. It's just, yes, there's room for improvement. That's what a B plus is. It's a solid grade, but there's room for improvement.
There's the dialogue is just snoozeville, man. There's no one has anything interesting to say.
Yeah,
the story's there. They move the story along, but no one has any fucking character. It's all just like the same old shit. Somebody crack a fucking joke, for God's sake, dude. Like just one.
We went past it. Everyone's aged.
Yeah.
Too serious.
There are no jokes.
No one has any personality. Like their personalities or their goals.
Bring back that goals, Lannister from the second episode. Remember, he's just all cocky and headstrong and just.
That was something. The goals are not a personality trait. Okay, God, like that is not enough. Why are you doing this? What will this make you feel better? For some reason. Is there anything else you wish to achieve? Like. Something.
We didn't even talk about the. We didn't even talk about.
This is everybody.
We didn't even talk about the birthing issue.
It's not on the level of things that I would talk about on this show. That's not really even.
I know, but I want to know.
The time we have, folks.
I want to know, like, I want to know what the point. Like, I want to know what the point of showing so many Like,
Well,
I understand.
I think
Like,
Tim was agreeing with you, George, on this issue, and then I think he agrees with my point in that I've talked. So okay, look, I before I was with you guys, like it's like what is with
I'm
all
so
these
confused.
these birthing scenes are visceral and intense and sad, but every female I've talked to about this, they're all just kind of like they basically tell me to man the fuck up because it's the reality of life most of the time, and especially back then, babies dying
Sure.
after childbirth, that that happened. I don't even want to know the statistics, but you know, I will say that the initial one, the one from the first episode, was extremely visceral, and I think that was with intent.
Right.
A medieval
Right.
C-section they were not where we are today, but that is what a C-section more or less is cutting into this person and pulling out the baby. And I felt the same way for a while, and I've had my opinion changed because the fact of the matter is that men are bitches when it comes to this sort of thing.
Sure.
When we see it's like birthing, you know, how many times have a birthing video brought up to or even mentioned to any man, and the immediate reaction is, "Oh, God, I can't, no." To this day, you say the word period blood to a man, and they're all fucking like, "Oh God!" Like, man, the fuck up, men. Like, this is life. Like, I don't think it should be a thing. This is like that was a normal part of life back then, and they're just showing what they deal with, and I think that's right.
I think I'm not so much. It's not even about the squeamish part, to be honest. I just wonder, or not every one of those scenes served like a purpose per se.
So to that, I think they were trying to serve a purpose. The first one,
I don't know. Like, is there more to it than just like
sure.
Like, I'm trying to understand is there more to it? Do you know what I'm saying?
The last one that we saw was the stillbirth in this episode,
Right.
and I think that the purpose of that, which I just don't think they did it well, was not so much that moment of the stillbirth, but what came later when she also lost her other son, is to show loss and to drive her over the edge to then incite a war. So I feel like that's kind of what they were trying to do. I don't feel like I figured that out until we started talking about it. Like, if you're going to put something like that in, make it an impact and make it stand. The first one that we saw, where it was the C-section, like, that wasn't so much about the C-section itself as it was the character. The only person that had a character, which was, I think, Viserys, for quite a while in the beginning, was to show what the lengths he was willing to go to have a male heir, before then naming Rhaenyra and giving up on that idea of a male heir. So yes, he loved his wife, but he loves, succession and keeping his name in power more. Those middle ones, there was one where she was giving birth to the one of the other white-haired ones. No, was it Joffrey? I don't know.
No, it was Viserys. It was Viserys.
I don't know who it was. It was Rhaenyra's, one of Rhaenyra's births, and it just was like a joyous occasion. I don't really know.
It was also so that she could
the point to, but like it didn't bother me.
The
only thing that bothered me is I was watching with headphones on, and then you have like the afterbirth, and I was like, well, that was just a whole lot of sound in my ear. And that was the only problem I had with it. But yeah, I see what you're saying.
It was like right after the time jump, where they switched.
It's hard to track with the time jumps. It's hard to track.
I think they just switched actresses after that. During that childbirth. That was the first scene with her. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I think I think maybe when I was watching it, I didn't really understand the purpose of showing it all that much. But I think it really takes a minute, for you to have to go back and be like, what was the point of showing that? And I just don't want to. I also question if there's a larger, deeper message they're trying to convey, that I'm missing.
I
On top of that, do you know what I'm saying? Is there anything beyond
that kind of show?
Right?
I don't think. Why does there have to be?
Yeah, no, I'm just curious.
Game of Thrones is not that. Well, I mean, I guess that's not true. I guess it does.
Yeah, is there like a larger, like beyond like a statement that they're trying to make as a show beyond that, or is it just like?
I mean, they are very much trying to empower women, you know.
Sure.
And again, this is not really a point that we can drive home because we only have one male perspective. But you know, the Rhaenys has been saying the whole time, you know, like they'll never see you as a successor because you're not a male, and I should have been queen, but I wasn't a male. And she kind of gave up and gave in until now, where I think like, oh, I can just kind of live vicariously through Rhaenyra, as in make her the first female ruler, and then I'll just kind of help whisper in the ear and have true power behind the scenes. So, you know, I think that is a very big point of the show. You know, but I was having a conversation with somebody else, and I don't remember who it was, and this is not my point to be made, but I'm going to repeat what they said, is that story of like, you know, like we do not recognize you because you're a woman, has been, that storyline has been beaten to death. And I think that there is something to be said to that. Sure, a lot of these period pieces have that same message where, oh, you're a woman, we're not going to listen to you, and then they become power, and people end up listening to them. But I think until life reflects art, I think we can, that story may still need to be told. You know what I mean? Like it's still happening today, where people are writing off women because they're women, and I think that is, until it's not relevant in society, I think then you can keep telling that story in these types of shows and TV and movies and stuff like that, and still have it be impactful for some people. So, this is a show for platforms, but also at the same time, I don't think that they're really trying to get up on a high horse about pregnancy and childbirth. If we watch a lot of these types of medieval movies and shows, they have some scenes like that, and to show the graphic and the intensity of the time, to set the tone. I think these ones, not all of them landed, and I think that's more on the writing and directing than it is on anything else. I think the story, I think they make sense for the most part. I just don't think they're as impactful, at least for me. Again, white male, what the fuck do I know? But they weren't impactful for me in a story sense, other than the very first one, and I guess kind of that end cap one with the stillbirth. So, those ones really did kind of have more of an impact, whereas the other one was like, yeah, it's childbirth scene, and it's fine. And then plop, and I was like, oh my god, I'm awake, I promise. But yeah,
okay,
B-, C-, B+. Take that for what you will. And let us know if you watched House of the Dragon. I really want to know more. If especially, women, please chime in. We want your opinion. Yeah. I want your opinion. I can only say one side of the story.
I am curious to see.
Harp on it all we want, but who the fuck are we? You know what I mean? We don't really have a say in that conversation, nor should we, for that matter. For the most part, it's not up to me. But let us know what you think of the show, what you think of our show, and sound off in the comments. If you had a good time, we have been the Modern Nerd, and thank you for watching.